What connects Captain America and AC Milan's latest goal-scoring sensation? Let's unveil the story of Christian Pulisic. Hey, I'm Leah, feeling totally excited to dive into today's topic.
And I'm Garrett, just pumped to explore what makes this soccer star stand out.
Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
The rise of a soccer icon. Okay, so here's where we start. I was at Turf Moor a few years back. That's Burnley Stadium in England, and I watched Christian Pulisic put together what's called a perfect hat trick. Left foot, right foot, header, 3 different ways to score in one match. He was only 21, and it was the first perfect hat trick by a Chelsea player since 2010, which, that's pretty rare air. I remember glancing at the away end, and it was just a sea of blue going wild. The thing that stuck with me wasn't just the goals, but how he kept popping up in different spots. Cutting inside, drifting wide, timing his runs late. It felt, kind of like he had a map of the whole penalty area in his head. That day really made me want to trace back his path. How did a kid from Hershey, Pennsylvania, end up doing that under Premier League pressure? I walked out thinking, wow, that's a versatile player who can change the rhythm of a game.
That's a story worth telling, and a quick translation for anyone hearing perfect hat trick for the first time. It just means 3 goals, 1 with each foot and 1 with the head. Real talk. That kind of balance says a lot about touch and timing. Also, I love how you mentioned his movement. It makes me wonder, why do coaches trust him in different positions so much? What's the core skill there that makes it work across systems? Let's set the scene for this one. Christian Pulisic, nicknamed Captain America in sports media, is an American soccer player who can operate as a winger, an attacking midfielder, or a forward. A winger is that wide attacker who stretches the field and either crosses or cuts inside to shoot. An attacking midfielder, sometimes called a trequartista in Italy, is the central creator behind the striker who links play and sets up chances. Pulisic has done all of that in top European leagues, with Borussia Dortmund in Germany, Chelsea in England, and AC Milan in Italy. On the international side, he's been central to the United States men's national team for years, wearing the captain's armband and carrying a big share of the creative load. Think of him as a Swiss Army knife on the pitch, fast, 2-footed, and adaptable. He can dribble at defenders, combine with teammates in tight spaces, and then, to press aggressively to win the ball back. Pressing just means organized pressure without the ball to force mistakes. The cool part is that those tools translate across different tactics.
Yeah, that checks out. And I'd add this. His managers have consistently praised his first touch, speed, and willingness to take defenders on, which makes him dangerous in transition. Transition is that quick moment when a team wins the ball and can catch the opponent unbalanced. He's also comfortable on either wing, but with AC Milan, he's often on the right, cutting in onto his left to shoot or slip passes. It's that 2-footed finishing, plus his quick give-and-go combinations that, let him slot into different shapes. Under coaches like Thomas Tuchel, a German manager known for structure and tactical detail, and later Stefano Pioli and Paulo Fonseca in Milan, he's shown he can learn a system and then improvise inside it. Swiss Army knife is right, but with a laser on one of the tools. He's precise.
Here's something to get us started on his roots. He grew up in a soccer-first family in Hershey, Pennsylvania. His mom, Kelly, and dad, Mark, both played college soccer, and Mark later coached at youth and pro levels. Early on, he lived in England for a bit because his mom was on a Fulbright teacher exchange, and he played for Brackley Town's youth team. That's a small English club setup where he got exposure to the pace and physicality you see there. He also spent time in Michigan when his dad worked in indoor soccer, which is super fast and demands sharp control in tight spaces. Back in Pennsylvania, he developed at PA Classics, a well-regarded youth academy. He even had a brief youth trial at Chelsea's Cobham facility in 2010, which is kind of a wow detail in hindsight. But the real accelerator came later. Before turning 16, he obtained a Croatian passport through his grandfather. Why did that change everything so much?
Great question. In simple terms, holding an EU passport meant he could move and sign with a European club at 16 instead of waiting until 18. That 2-year head start is massive in development. He joined Borussia Dortmund's academy pipeline in 2015. Dortmund is famous for developing young talent. He tore up the youth levels, 10 goals and 8 assists in just 15 U19 games, and within months he was pulled into the first team. That's unusually fast. By early 2016, he was making Bundesliga appearances, the top German league, and shortly after, he was playing in European competition. It's like getting admitted to college early and then skipping a grade once you're in. He earned trust quickly because he delivered end product, goals, assists, smart pressing. Thomas Tuchel, the Dortmund manager at the time, gave him chances, and he kept taking them.
Switching gears just a little to his breakthrough moments. In spring 2016, he scored his first Bundesliga goal, becoming the youngest non-German to score in that league at the time. He also became Dortmund's youngest ever Champions League player that fall. The Champions League is Europe's elite club competition, best versus best. He made an impact off the bench against Real Madrid being the Spanish powerhouse with a record European pedigree. Then, in 2017, the team experienced the bus bombing on the way to a Champions League match, a traumatic event that injured a teammate and shook the squad. Pulisic later testified in court proceedings. The way he kept performing over that period speaks to resilience under pressure, which, honestly, is more than just stats. He also scored in the DFL Super Cup that year against Bayern Munich. That's Germany's annual Super Cup, a curtain-raiser trophy. Each of these steps built the sense that he wasn't just a prospect. He was a player for big games.
Then came the Chelsea chapter. In January 2019, he signed for roughly £58 million, which made him the most expensive American player at the time. Frank Lampard, a Chelsea legend turned manager, oversaw that first season where Pulisic really flashed. We already talked about the perfect hat trick at Burnley. After the COVID shutdown, he returned hot, scored big goals, including against Manchester City and in the 2020 FA Cup final. That's England's historic knockout cup. He became the first American to score in an FA Cup final, though he did pick up a hamstring injury in that match. But the following season, under Thomas Tuchel, who had moved from PSG to Chelsea, he was central to the Champions League run. He scored away to Real Madrid in the semi-final first leg and then assisted Mason Mount in the second leg. Chelsea won the final against Manchester City in 2021. He was the first American to play in a Champions League final and the second American to win the European Cup after Jovan Kirovski in 1997. He added the UEFA Super Cup later that summer. That's a trophy between the Champions League and Europa League winners.
Time to move forward to Italy. In 2023, he transferred to AC Milan, one of the giants of Serie A, which is Italy's top league. He took the number 11 shirt, famously worn by Zlatan Ibrahimovic before him. That's a big stage and a big number. He scored on his Serie A debut against Bologna and quickly became Milan's Player of the Month in August. December brought another milestone. He won Serie A Player of the Month, the first North American ever to do so. And he set a new single-season Serie A scoring mark for an American before the new year. He finished that debut season with 15 goals and 10 assists across competitions, made the Serie A team of the season, and reset the narrative on consistency and availability. He also scored Milan's 5,000th Serie A goal in March 2024, which is one of those elegant little threads that tie a player into club history. In October 2024, after some confusion when teammates took and missed penalties, manager Paulo Fonseca, a Portuguese coach known for front-foot football, clarified that Pulisic is the designated penalty taker going forward. Then he pulled off an Olympico goal in the Champions League, scoring directly from a corner, which is very rare. He later assisted against Real Madrid and, in January 2025, delivered in the Supercoppa Italiana, Italy's Super Cup, scoring the equalizer and setting up Rafael Leão's winner in a comeback against Inter. By September 2025, he surpassed Clint Dempsey to become the all-time top American goalscorer in Europe's top 5 leagues, and he earned another Serie A Player of the Month. Back-to-back team of the season nods followed. That's consistency at an elite level.
And internationally, he's been the heartbeat of the U.S. for a while. He debuted for the senior team at 17, became the youngest captain at 20, and delivered massive moments. In 2021, he scored a 114th-minute penalty against Mexico in the Nations League final. The Nations League is a regional competition for North and Central America and the Caribbean. In 2022, at the World Cup in Qatar, he assisted against Wales, earned Man of the Match in a draw with England, scored the winner against Iran, and earned Man of the Match again, then assisted Haji Wright versus the Netherlands. In 2023, he won Player of the Tournament as the U.S. took another Nations League title, and in 2024, he captained the U.S. to a third straight Nations League crown over Mexico. At the 2026 World Cup on home soil, he opened the group stage by assisting Folarin Balogun and forcing an own goal versus Paraguay, becoming the U.S. men's all-time World Cup assist leader. That stack of big tournament contributions pairs with his club resume in a way we really haven't seen from an American outfield player before. All right, let's roll on to a question that always stirs the pot. Is Christian Pulisic the greatest American soccer player of all time? I'm down for that debate. I lean yes. Here's why. He's the first American to play in a Champions League final, and he won it. He holds American records for goals and assists across Europe's top 5 leagues and in the Champions League. He's done it in 3 major leagues with different tactical demands, and he's become a centerpiece at AC Milan, not a cameo star. That European peak, for me, is a level above what we've seen before. Plus, his profile has expanded how people in Europe talk about American attackers. That matters. It raises the ceiling for the next wave.
Let's not let this one slide by without a counter. I totally get that view, but I'm kind of protective of context. Landon Donovan, who is a U.S. legend with huge MLS and national team impact, and Clint Dempsey, who thrived in the Premier League with Fulham and Tottenham and tied the U.S. men's international goals record, both built massive legacies over long international cycles. Longevity and leadership across many qualifying campaigns and tournaments matter too. Different eras bring different opportunities, so I'd ask, why should European club medals weigh more than, say, a decade of carrying the national team through qualifying and continental tournaments? Is it fair to rank across eras when roles and team strength vary so much?
That's a solid point. Cross-era comparisons are messy. For me, it isn't just the medals, it's the combination. European peak plus national team clutch moments. He has the 2021 penalty against Mexico, the 2022 World Cup production, the Nations League three-peat as captain. So he's checking both boxes. I'll admit availability has been a storyline at times, but in Italy he's shown that with the right fit and load management he can stack a full season. Maybe the fairest answer is that the GOAT conversation is evolving. Donovan and Dempsey set the standard. Pulisic is redefining what the peak can look like in Europe while still delivering for the US. It's, a living argument.
Keeping it real, I can live with that. Speaking of pop culture, his Captain America nickname has followed him because of the way he takes on big moments. And that 2025 night when he came off the bench with influenza and scored a brace in a comeback against Torino drew immediate comparisons to Michael Jordan's famous 1997 NBA Finals performance, often called the flu game. Different sports, different stakes, but the shared image is pushing through adversity to deliver. That kind of story is sticky. It shapes how fans remember you.
Here's a thought I've been turning over. What if Pulisic hadn't gotten that Croatian passport in time and could only move to Europe at 18? I think his path probably detours through MLS, or he waits until 18 for a European move. Without those Dortmund years at 16 and 17, he misses the exact window where Thomas Tuchel and that staff accelerated him into the first team. Those reps against Bundesliga and Champions League opponents so young built decision speed that's hard to replicate. Maybe he still reaches a top league, he's that talented, but the timeline likely shifts. Fewer UCL knockout minutes early, maybe the Chelsea transfer happens later or at a different club, and momentum is a big deal in careers. Those 2 extra years were like compound interest.
That's close to the heart of it. If he starts in MLS or waits longer, he might still become a star. But the narrative beats change. No teenage Champions League, maybe no early Real Madrid moments. The Chelsea move could be to a different system or manager, which matters for a player who thrives on timing and quick combinations. And then AC Milan, would that door open the same way at the same time, without the earlier European proof of concept? The what if here underlines how a passport isn't just paperwork, it's access to a development runway when the brain and body are learning at top speed. I'd still bet on him long term, truly, but the path might look more stepwise. Slower, fewer trophies early, and maybe a different club tapestry. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Stay curious.
And keep it chill. Until next time on Laid Back Learning.